When was the last time you did something without trying to turn it into progress? Not productive, not profitable, just because you wanted to. I, for the last few years, really struggled with that because I spent a lot of time on trying to get my business off the ground, and I am now going to uni, and at the same time, I'm now trying to actually gain some of that back. I'm still quite far away from that. However, I'm trying my best to get the time management that is needed for this, and I'm trying to enjoy the little moments as seen here, having my morning coffee on my balcony, even though it's obvious that many things are lacking. The table is dirty, it's not properly decorated, the windows need cleaning, but it's what we have time for, so let's enjoy the little sips of morning coffee. Before I start my own busy workday and try to give some tips on how to not be too busy all the time in this time, we have to sadly talk about a few hard topics on a macro scale, because we all have to be busy. We all have to work in some sense, and that is getting harder in itself, and a lot of people face a lot of economic uncertainty at the moment. And I think it's very important to acknowledge that the situation of workers is getting worse across the board. Like in my home country, the 40-hour work week is currently being dismantled, social status being gutted, and the cost of basically a person working for a company is getting a lot higher, especially in 2027. So our already very bad job market is going to fall off a cliff next year. And that is pretty much the same worldwide and in the Western countries. So it's important to be aware of this dynamic and also acknowledge that economic development is outpacing the time that it takes to get an education. So a lot of people are studying and learning things that will put them into unemployment, and they can't even do anything about it because it could be every part of work. So it's very important to have a diversified set of skills, and I'm not a fan of gig work, but sadly it's moving in that direction even for traditional employment with how workers' rights are being diminished. So it's very important that you have a diversified set of skills. For myself, it was started out with social media, being a YouTuber and having skills in like the whole ad management and the background of things. I actually started this with assuming that the 40-hour work week is going to be dismantled when I'm in my late 30s, and I sounded crazy about like 4 years ago when I was saying that. Sadly, I was 10 years off, sadly on the shit end, and it's not happening now, which kind of like my stuff is working since like a year, and it feels a little bit like getting the last chopper out of Nam. Like that's what it feels like with all these things happening at the moment. So it's really important to have different things that you can do. For me, it's YouTube, it's ad management, it's motorcycle journalism, and now studying something completely unrelated to these, because we don't know what part is going to be scrapped by the government, what part is going to be replaced by AI, and all these kind of things. So that is really important to just start out with. So if you manage to have work, how do you manage to have it not take up all of your life? One of the big things that can really help here is becoming more self-sufficient, not just with how you organize your own work, where I basically just talked about, but also with other skills outside of that. I, for example, recently got quoted over 800 euros and over 2 months of waiting time to get something on my motorcycle fixed. This was, by the way, about a broken LED for the engine light. Sadly, that LED can't be replaced, so instead I got, for a fraction of the cost, another dash from a crashed motorbike. So another 800 quid I do not need to spend time on working. Fixing something on my motorbike can also be an enjoyable experience in itself, even though this is sometimes blurring the line between work and relaxation, and that can be a bit of a blessing and a curse at the same time. Right here, you're for example seeing me doing the editing for the social media content of a car rally that I filmed recently. I've until now experienced the same level of job insecurity regardless of if I hated the job that I was doing or if it was creative work that I actually enjoyed doing. So I rather chase vintage Porsches on a car rally with my little French compact car. But the disadvantage of this is still work. You still need to deliver good work, so it can still be stressful and even more can muddy the water between what you do for yourself and what is work at the end of the day. And often time for the bigger projects you do for yourself is left behind. For example, I haven't touched my cruiser motorcycle wrenching project in over a year. My first 5 hours of work for the day behind the laptop are over, and now it's time to visit my lectures at university. So I'm driving there, and commuting can be such a hassle. I have about a 40-minute commute, and luckily with the motorbike it only takes 20 minutes because I can filter through traffic. And we currently have a really bad heat wave that leads to cars literally getting destroyed from standing in traffic. So it's genuinely really good to be able to just go through the middle. And it also makes you feel like you're actively taking part in life compared to just sitting in traffic. After getting through my lectures and writing a magazine article in between, I decided to take myself some free time, even though I still had a lot of work to do, and go skateboarding, because I knew tomorrow I'm not going to have any free time, so might as well just take some of that time for myself. It's basically the biggest thing when it comes to not being too busy to live, is to just take the time away from work to do something else and try to deal with the consequences later, and most of the time the fallout is pretty manageable. At the end of the day, luckily, we stay the person in control of how we use our time. Now skateboarding back home, I kind of have to face the fact that I still have plenty of work to do and multiple hours behind the computer, and even though that's shit and it's too much work, I am very happy that I get to counterbalance this with actually doing something for myself. And it's not just that I'm doing this for myself, it's actually a necessity to keep going to every once in a while just take some time back and do something that you actually like doing, because I ended up still sitting behind the laptop up until 10 in the evening. Sadly, all the time that goes into work also has other effects, like that cooking for myself becomes really difficult and I often need to get myself cheap takeout, which I'm not necessarily proud of, but most likely is something that other people can relate to. And also seeing other people is difficult with everyone else working a lot of overtime, and overtime not really being schedulable because it just randomly appears in other people's lives. It's tough to meet up with other people, so I also end up watching YouTube videos while eating, which is maybe a habit that you are indulging in right now as well, but it's just one of the effects that comes with this kind of way of handling work. However, in really positive news, I managed to get my Iceland motorcycle trip released in a motorcycle magazine, which is really nice that work that I put into that production is paying off, because at the time when I filmed it for the YouTube channel, no one really watched it and it was so cold and so tough, and with so much rainy weather and so many challenges. I also made a big movie on that trip. Definitely check it out in the top hand corner. I'm right now on the way to go to the cinema late in the evening. It's already after 10 and going to watch the new Odyssey movie, and it's just a really special feeling to be going to the cinema completely alone. And yeah, always quite a unique experience. I don't know what's going on here. There's like a ambulance down there and stuff going on. Yeah, let's get into the movie. Going to a late night screening is always a very unique experience, and with cinema kind of being on the downward trend, it's such a weird experience. I was in Odyssey completely alone, and I've not been in a cinema with more than 10 people in the last 2 years. So, currently walking out of Odyssey onto the street, and it's raining hard. That typical lone cinema experience, and then late at night walking back home through the really heavy rain. My hometown actually recently got flooded and of course got destroyed. It was really bad, and this is kind of repeating itself right now. I hope it doesn't get as bad as last time with hail and everything. The movie was good, but it's always a weird experience getting out of the cinema like after watching a movie that late at night. It's 2 a.m, and yeah, it kind of makes you reflect on your own life, like some of the stuff with the YouTube channel of like how I built it up when no one really was watching and it was really tough. It felt at times like an Odyssey. Right after now, basically watching Odyssey, like with going through the freezing cold in Iceland and like basically forcing just it through, and actually getting that video out, getting the article out. It's actually pretty crazy that now there is an article on the Iceland trip, because basically not a lot of people saw the Iceland trip ever, and that I now managed to get the Iceland trip into a newspaper is actually really lovely, and it nicely rounds that experience. Yeah, so it's crazy with all the neon lights, seeing the city in the rain. You can see a few people going clubbing over there. Yeah, haven't done that in a while. Yeah, definitely, if you liked this different kind of style of video, Definitely like and subscribe, and see you guys in the next one, hopefully dry.